We are Toronto Central CCAC Telehomecare nurses. Telehomecare nurses use technology to remotely monitor and coach patients who are managing their chronic diseases from home. We work with people living with congestive heart failure and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and empower them through education and support to manage their conditions, achieve their goals, and live healthier, fuller lives. We support people like Carol and her mother. Carol was very anxious before her mother, Mrs. J, joined the Telehomecare program. Mrs. J had experienced a lengthy hospital admission for exacerbation of her congestive heart failure, and her family was understandably concerned. At first, Carol was unsure of whether using the Telehomecare equipment would help, but she was happy to learn how she could help her mother self-manage her CHF. Both Carol and her mother were also comforted to know that a nurse would be with them every step of the way, and only a phone call away if they needed help. Carol learned how to check her mother's blood pressure, weight, and oxygen saturation readings daily, and with the help of their Telehomecare nurse, began to understand what these values meant and how to identify and manage her mother's symptoms. Carol also helped her mother answer a few questions each day via a touchscreen tablet. Mrs. J's responses indicated how she was feeling, and they, along with her vital signs, automatically went to her nurse. Any readings outside normal parameters triggered an alert, and their nurse was ready to respond. Over time, a pattern began to emerge in Mrs. J's touchscreen responses. The nurse noticed that Mrs. J was complaining of shortness of breath and wheezing, although she was otherwise stable. The Telehomecare nurse advised Carol to take her mother to her doctor, who determined that Mrs. J was again in the early stages of CHF exacerbation. The nurse recommended daily monitoring of Mrs. J's lungs with a stethoscope to keep tabs on the condition and was once again there as a support. The nurse conducted a home visit to teach Carol what to look for and supported her as needed over the phone. Today, Carol is comfortable monitoring her mother's lungs and vital signs on a daily basis. As a result of her nurse's coaching, Carol can read and understand her mother's results, recognize symptoms of an exacerbation, and knows when to seek medical attention. Moreover, Carol is much less anxious and no longer feels the need to make frequent trips to the emergency department. Instead, she takes her mother to her physician as needed. Through the Telehomecare program, Carol has the knowledge and confidence to successfully help her mother manage her congestive heart failure as well as her overall health.